Tonight we're live with a very special episode and two of my very favorite guests. We've got Larry Klayman of freedomwatchusa.org and Michael Moore of truepundit.com. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. How are you both?
You're welcome.
Good.
Be on with
So we've got a big episode tonight. Of course, Larry, you've been saying for months that Robert Mueller's special counsel's office has been leaking, and tonight, a dump, the second major dump in your Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the special counsel's office. Of course, Judge Emmett Sullivan ruled in your favor. It was only July that that ruling came down, and he determined that in September, the special counsel's office would have to turn over all of the communications that they have had with members of the mainstream press. Now, of course, that first release we did on our only on Patreon show, More Paine, which of course people can see by subscribing to patreon.com/truepundit or patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. And Larry, people can support your work at patreon.com/freedomwatch, but it was, I can't say surprising, to find that we had an incomplete release in September. What can you tell us about what's gone on so far, Larry?
be a little off color, maybe a premature ejaculation. You know, what we're doing here is trying to pry documents out of the government. It comes slowly because they delay, they obstruct. When the documents were supposed to be produced, Jason, on September 4th, just a few days before that, our so-called Justice Department came forward on behalf of the Special Counsel's Office and the FBI and Maine Justice and said, oh, there's a computer glitch. Well, when did we hear that before? I heard that many years ago with Hillary Clinton in the White House. We went through another email scandal, always a computer glitch. And then they were supposed to produce documents after that, and it appears that they've only produced about half of the documents. So I'm going to have to go back to court. Now, Michael has looked through some of those documents, and there's some trends that we can see in the documentation. I'm still convinced that documents will show grand jury leaks. If not, there will be documents that lead to other evidence which will show the leaks. And one of the things, and I'll let Michael expound more about that in a second, look forward to hearing what he has to say, but you get communications in from the media, a lot of the leftist media. And what Peter Carr says, he's the spokesman. He says, well, I have no comment, but I'll meet you, I'm paraphrasing, at Paul's coffee shop. It's a French coffee shop on Pennsylvania Avenue. Now, is that where the leaks are occurring? That's something that needs to be looked into. And in addition to that, what about communications when reporters call prosecutors, maybe Andrew Wiseman or others directly, that are done orally? So we're going to have to trace all of this. And I would maintain that the telephone records are within the purview of my FOIA request. So I want the telephone records turned over to see who's been talking. So we're going to go back to Judge Sullivan, and we're going to keep pushing as quickly as we can. But we do have an indication, in my view, that the leaks were occurring orally at Paul Restaurant. If you want a croissant and get a leak about a grand jury investigation, go to Paul Restaurant, and you can meet Peter Carr there. Maybe you can even get, some croissant or something,
Now, Larry, this was even more email messages than what were released in the first tranche of messages. We're going to be making those public just after the broadcast. I've released them now to the Discord chat group that is very active on patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. They've been working with us. They've put together a little research group that's been going through all of these messages and created a Trello board that's been very helpful. Michael, as Larry said, you've had a chance to go through. As a member of the press, True Pundit, of course, was in touch with Peter Carr. Did you see any of those messages in this release, Michael?
No, we haven't seen any emails. We wrote Carr as special counsel in 2017. We haven't seen them in either dump yet. And we wrote them a few months ago, too. I think most of the I haven't seen anything up to date. I don't know the scope of Larry's FOIA, but I haven't seen anything up to date, like, really up to date in 2018. But as far as going back to the 2017 stuff, we haven't seen any of the True Pundit emails, which tells me that they haven't. Obviously, it's not complete. There's probably a lot more that they're withholding, which is a tactic they use. I mean, delay is a tactic they use, and it's used on both sides of the a good defense attorney delays, and a lot of times when they're trying to hide something that could be damaging, of course they're going to delay. You see this as the standard operating procedure now with DOJ.
They're going to run the clock out, and to a large extent, they've succeeded. This is what happens in federal court. It's very, very slow. My former group, Judicial Watch, gets documents years after the fact.
Right.
They're of interest, but they don't actually accomplish justice, unfortunately. So we're going to be pushing quickly to get this, because right after tomorrow's election, you're going to see an onslaught by Special Counsel Robert Mueller and his prosecutors. There's going to be the equivalent of an impeachment report issued. And if the Democrats take control of the House, all heck's going to break loose. And even if it doesn't happen, it's going to break loose in the media, and the presidency will be damaged even further. So I really welcome other people looking at the documents. We have a citizens' army here, Jason, that you and Michael have put together, and Freedom Watch as well. So if people looking through these documents find things, please contact us, because sometimes one person will see something, another person will see another thing. We look forward to the input.
Yeah, the thing that's been most helpful is our group that's communicating in Discord chat on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. They put together a Trello board that really adds some organization to this. In addition to the delay tactics that you guys are describing, there's something else going on that I find very annoying. These are all emails, but of course they're presented here as bitmap images, essentially a photograph of an email. Ordinarily, you can select text within an email or within a PDF document, but of course here we've just got a picture of text, and it's actually a relatively low quality picture, because when you zoom in you can see that it's got compression artifacts and it's kind of blurry. It's certainly suitable for reading, but when I attempted to do optical character recognition on this document so that we could efficiently search it with search tools within Adobe Acrobat and search for certain names, search for dates. I want to look through these documents and see what Shane Harris has to say. I want to see if they're talking about Peter W. Smith. I'd like to search for True Pundit and find things quickly, because we've got thousands of pages of documents here. But of course, presenting these PDF documents as bitmap images rather than text documents really hampers the search process. Larry, is there anything that can be done from a legal standpoint to put technical requirements on the production?
Well, we will ask Judge Sullivan to do that, but we could also do it ourselves. Of course, that's very costly, which is why we need tax-deductible contributions, but we could have a computer document expert, a litigation expert, code these documents so we could retrieve them with search terms.
Right.
And that would be a very good thing to do. Now, there's another interesting aspect of this, and troubling aspect, is that when the government agencies do the searches, they put in keywords to search. I've always maintained they should look at every single document, that's relevant. So we'll be going back to Judge Sullivan on that too, because it's incomprehensible. You see a lot of communication into the special counsel's office, the FBI, the Justice Department, but you don't see as much coming out. And I do think that what Michael saw in True Pundit not being in this shows that they have not done a complete search, even given best of possible spins on this from the government side. It's not complete. And when that happens, I might add, if it's an adequate search, then I can ask Judge Sullivan for the right to take discovery to find out what's been going on. And Judge Sullivan has actually granted a discovery in prior Freedom of Information Act cases, so there's a history of this. And also Judge Lamberth over there, who has a Benghazi Freedom of Information Act case. He allowed me broad range for discovery back in the 1990s with regard to the Clinton administration and the China.
Did we just lose you there, Larry? I think you might have frozen for a moment. I'll take this opportunity. If we got you still? Larry?
Am I not there?
No, you cut out for a second, and I was just going to remind everyone that you and your team do need our support, and people can go to freedomwatchusa.org and they can financially contribute to the work that you're doing. I think a lot of people are very thankful for Larry and his team. He is prosecuting all kinds of lawsuits, and Larry is sort of America's lawyer. He's doing the work that the Department of Justice is failing to do. And it would be a shame for the financial resources of Freedom Watch USA to have to bring in computer experts to do this type of work, because frankly, the emails start out as text documents. They must be going to, frankly, a considerable effort to convert them into this type of unsearchable document. It's a very deliberate effort, I believe.
Well, yeah, they know what they're doing. I can tell you as a young lawyer, I went to seminars sometimes in the morning. I was in the antitrust division when we were breaking up AT&T and other cases with Sandy Litvak, who was one of the finest antitrust lawyers for Donovan Leisure, a private law firm in New York. He became Assistant Attorney General. This was during Carter, by the way. And he used to teach us as government lawyers how to bury documents in boxes so they wouldn't be found. I mean,
Wow.
Here it is, the government is being taught. Sandy's an honest guy, but he was thinking as a private defense lawyer at the time. And that's what he was teaching us. And yes, the government does do those kinds of things, and they hide things. And they destroy things. And they've been caught before. I've done it, caught them many, many times over the last 25 years that I've been doing public interest work at Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch.
Wow. That's really unbelievable. Michael, you know, you've just released your book, Paine, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas, and I think we should also let people know that TruePundit.com has a whole new look and a whole new layout. You've been reporting tons of stuff about the wrongdoing and inappropriate activities of the Department of Justice and the FBI. How does all this stuff with Robert Mueller now as the special counsel play into that?
I don't understand. Maybe, you know, Larry may agree. I think that what he's doing is just the tip of the iceberg. If he can get an honest representation of these emails to the special counsel in and out, as well as the phone records. We talked about this last time, the phone records, Carr's phone records. If we can get some kind of honest reporting on exactly real records instead of 30% of what's coming out, I think this could be devastating. There's a reason that they delay this stuff, and there's a reason that they won't give all of his text messages and things like that. And obviously there's some stuff there they don't want us to see and don't want Larry to see. And these meetings that they're having at these coffee shops, I don't know what in the world they could be talking about. Carr told me that last time I talked to him that these were just proffers, that he was explaining the special counsel's role in the investigation of Trump, blah, 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 to reporters. But I think that you could just explain that in a 1 or 2 paragraph standard boilerplate text back to people. I don't know why you have to meet with these people individually. Larry will tell you that if you want to tell somebody something in Washington, you do it in person, because right. there's a lesser chance that they're wired up or you're being recorded and things like that. And then there's deniability and things along that way. So when I hear people are meeting at coffee shops, that raises all kind of red flags. So, and Mueller, I don't understand how this guy is still there. It's baffling. There's so much dirt we've pumped out on this guy alone. Yet he's still there. He's like untouchable. I don't get the whole thing. It's baffling, and it's also frustrating. I mean, maybe Larry can touch on it, but it's frustrating that you're digging up all this stuff on him, and it's negative stuff. Some of it's heavy things that he's done in his career, and he just keeps going about his business. And like Larry said, after the midterms, he's probably going to cut loose some report that makes Trump look like an arch criminal, and it could be mass chaos. And why is this guy still there? It baffles me. It baffles me.
Well, one reason, Michael, is the club in Washington. When I ran for the U.S. Senate in Florida, where I am today, I said, I don't want to be a member of the Senate club. I want to take a club to the Senate. I like to take a club to the entire Washington, D.C., frankly. And, it upsets me. And I like Joe DeGenova. Let me give you one example. I think he's doing some good commentary these days. But when he talks about Mueller, he calls him Bob. Okay, everybody calls him Bob. I mean, it's all a club. He's got private clients that are in front of the Justice Department. He may have, in the future, matters in front of Mueller in his next life, wherever he winds up. Same thing with regard to others who are in the Justice Department, although he has been tough on Sessions. I don't mean to pick on Joe DeGenova, but I'm just saying that's an example. Bob, okay? Is Billy Bob? I mean, who is this guy that he's called Bob? Okay, and this is something that really troubles me about Washington. It's this huge, giant club. It's a giant party, whether it's a soiree in Georgetown or events otherwise. And whether you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, moderate, libertarian, you're all part of the club, and you're all cashing in. So, yes, Mueller is a protected species, along with Hillary Clinton, along with Barack Obama, along with all of them, because of the club.
Yeah. We also noticed the redaction is a bit inconsistent. It seems that preferred members of the press are having their phone numbers redacted, but there are some people who don't enjoy that degree of privacy. What did you think about that, Michael?
Well, I was telling you and Larry real briefly, if they spent as much time getting Larry the documents that he's supposed to get as they do redacting mainstream media reporters' phone numbers, I think he'd probably have a whole lot more documents, because it seems like they go through everything. They go line for line, like, oh, there's a phone number, so let's redact that. And my contention is, why can't I have? Why are those phone numbers redacted? Why can't I have? I mean, why is that not public record? I don't understand. If you put that in an email,
yes,
to a reporter, not a reporter, but to Carr or one of the staff members of the special counsel, why don't I have that on my desk? Well, one of the reasons you wouldn't have it on your desk is because maybe you can develop, maybe you have some resources to, I mean, let's not fool around and pretend like everybody's an altar boy, but maybe you have some resources to take that number and see who they've been calling and things like that. So I think the numbers are redacted so that it further protects this whole cabal that I think is likely unfolding. There are reporters, when I was running Intel and we dealt with certain media organizations, they would call up and ask, hey, can you give me this guy's phone bills? And we did it. I mean, it was expensive. And this was before there was a lot of regulation. So, and there's still people that do it, because we don't participate in that anymore because we're in the media. But I think by protecting their phone numbers, it's just another indication that it's kind of, Larry talked about a club. I think this is like a different kind of club. And some of the people in conservative media's numbers are not protected. They're not redacted. And I talked to some of those people today. I just called them up. And I said, hey, these emails that Freedom Watch got are about to go public. So don't be surprised if your phone starts ringing off the hook at 3 a.m. with a bunch of maniacs calling you and taunting you.
We definitely don't want anyone to do that. That's not what we're promoting.
No, but I'm saying the problem is, okay, it wouldn't be your fault, my fault, or anybody's fault. It'd be the special counsel's fault, because if you're going to redact somebody from the New York Times phone number or email address, secondary email address, why wouldn't you do the same for somebody from Fox News?
It's a good question.
So I talked to one of the top reporters in the country today, and she said, why isn't mine redacted? I said, you have to take it up with the special counsel. I'm just telling you, and I have a rapport with some of these people. So I said, I'm just telling you that if your phone starts ringing off the hook, where it's coming from, so you don't have to figure. So she was particularly upset that people from the Huffington Post, New York Times, and other places, phone numbers are protected, but hers wasn't.
Okay, so I've got a question here, Larry. Now, we've, of course, you know, when someone sends something to the special counsel's office, it's a government thing. Those emails become property of the people of the United States. What does the law say about redacting information that's not classified in that type of document?
Generally, if the person gets caught up in the web, not through his own doing, his own effort, but just as part of the whole investigation or whatever it is you're looking into through a Freedom of Information Act request, the government will ask for permission to release his name and his phone number or any other information. But that's certainly not the case here. Okay, these are people that willingly, as Michael said, and you're saying, called into the special counsel's office, and therefore, in that regard, gave up their confidentiality. You know, that was the argument of our so-called Justice Department when they opposed me suing the NSA and suing other intelligence agencies after Snowden revealed this mass surveillance. They said, well, this is just a pen register. I mean, we can get phone numbers in other ways, so it's not confidential. But apparently when it suits them, it's not confidential. When it doesn't suit them, it is. And of course, you know, reporters from conservative media have been critical of Mueller. So there's a natural inclination to release their phone numbers to get them harassed. And it could be worse than that in today's day and age. It could result in some kind of violence. I mean, you can track people's location, you know, with phone numbers. At least you know what city they're in.
Yeah, it's almost a punitive step to release someone's phone number, particularly when all these others have been redacted. Now, I don't know if you guys still have the screen share. There was a little bit of a monitor issue right before we went live, so you may not see this, but what I've got on screen right now is going to be, I think, of particular interest to our viewers. On Tuesday, the 8th of August in 2017, an email was sent to the Office of Special Counsel. Who it's from has been entirely redacted, and the subject is Seth Rich. And the email is asking, can you acknowledge receipt of Berkman's request, Joshua Stwevy, or I think that's the guy who is the stand-in for Peter Carr when Peter Carr is not available. And the response, the from is redacted, the to is redacted, and it's saying looking for clarity on Jack Berkman's inquiry, re Mueller looking into Seth Rich murder, thanks. So it's interesting to see that there's a high degree of secrecy surrounding requests for information about Seth Rich's murder. This looks like maybe it's coming from Alexander Nazarian, senior writer at Newsweek. Had you seen that one, Michael? Any of these emails about Seth Rich?
I saw some things that were redacted, and I didn't understand why they were redacted at all. I didn't. That's not the only one that's redacted. I cruised over that one, but there's another one where it's court documents. A reporter, I think from the Huffington Post or New York Times, says, "Oh, I'm sending this along for comment. It was released by the court today, and it was documents from the court." And I'm sure they weren't redacted when he sent them to the special counsel's office because it's very rare to see that. But they're redacted when Larry got them. And I'm sitting there, and there's significant portion was redacted. I'm like, what is this? I've never seen that before. That's a new one.
What's interesting, too, is that under the law that governs the Freedom of Information Act, which has been developed over many years, technically speaking, there is no Privacy Act concern. There's no exemption after someone dies, okay? Now, this hack judge in Washington, D.C., Judge Boasberg, I might add, of an Obama appointee, gave confidentiality and privacy to Osama bin Laden when people wanted to obtain the photograph of his body, okay? That was totally illegal, but of course, you know, our gutless judges don't enforce that all the way up the line. The D.C. Circuit is very, very leftist as well, and it's not an issue that would go to the Supreme Court in all likelihood, never did. But there is no confidentiality if you're dead. So that information should have been released.
So, Larry, is this redaction Sudoku, or what's going on? Why are they able to take out huge portions of these messages at their own behest?
Because they hope that you're not going to follow up. They hope that they'll be able to run off the clock long enough that Mueller will do his dirty work before anybody knows what goes on. Hey, look, this is a tactic which has been used successfully by the Clintons for many, many years. Just delay, 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 and events will overtake it. Now she's talking about running for president again. I mean, think of all the stuff in the past that I've FOIA'd and everybody else has FOIA'd that is still out there. And to this day, all those missing emails, 1 million of them in the White House back in the late 90s, most of them are still irretrievable. Now, thank God we had a judge like Judge Royce Lamberth who for $8 million ordered that they be recreated, but even then we didn't get them all. Look at the Hillary's hard drives and cell phones that she busted up and bleach bit, whitewashed, along with her lawyer David Kendall at Williams & Connolly, who's not held accountable by the D.C. Bar Association because, hey, he's part of the club too, and so are they. The D.C. Bar is run by leftists. They're not going to go against David Kendall. This is what we're dealing with. And this is why we are headed into, and I always say peacefully and legally, that's what I'm trying to do. But I'm convinced that it's all going to hit the fan if people go after Trump after this election. And I think people are going to be in the streets. You're going to have the left, you're going to have Antifa, you're going to have people on the right. And I hope not to see it, but I think we're headed for some very violent times in the next year or two, because people see the government has totally broken down. They've seen that it's generally speaking dishonest, that it obstructs justice. Look at the Bundys. Look at what they did to the Bundys. I just brought a lawsuit last week for Ryan Bundy against Jeff Sessions, against Loretta Lynch, against James Comey, against Neil Cornsey, who was head of BLM, handpicked by Harry Reid. Left and right, see how this corrupt the whole thing is. That one has one side they want, the other has the other side, but this country's going to explode. And we've been trying to avoid that, but I'm afraid that's going to happen.
I had Ryan Bundy on the show earlier today, Larry. Of course, he's running for governor there in Nevada. It's really important for any Nevada voters who respect or even remotely care about the Constitution to get out and vote for Ryan tomorrow. This is a historic election, and this is your opportunity to get a governor in there who cares about your rights, who cares about the Constitution. And even if you can't make it to the polls, or if you're not a Nevada voter, you can help Ryan by contributing financially to his campaign. If you just go to GovernorBundy.com, you can do that over there. It's also important that everybody supports FreedomWatchUSA.org. Larry and his team are over there doing the work that the Justice Department will not do. And if we want justice, it's important that we stand with them. Larry's just initiated a new lawsuit on behalf of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. And of course, Larry's got so many cases going on. He really needs our financial support. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. We're still trying to get Robert Mueller removed as the special counsel. And hopefully this FOIA lawsuit and some of the emails that have been produced will help us do that. Michael, of course, you can read all about the news that he and his team are breaking at truepundit.com. Congratulations on the new layout, Michael. The site looks great.
Oh, thanks. You know, I just want to say real quick, I agree with Larry. I think that we're reaching a tipping point. And I know that myself included and the guys that are working here, we're somewhat fed up with the whole thing. We're somewhat fed up with all this beating our heads against the wall to try to uncover corruption, and nothing ever happens. And I think that it's a microcosm of the general public on the right. Conservatives are tired of it. Believe me, if I'm tired of it, and we're getting tired of it here, then I can guarantee you, and Larry will probably agree, that the people, the general public, are tired of it too. And it seems like even some of the stuff in the book was like mind-blowing, corroborated, mind-blowing documentation. People are like, well, you know, what's going to happen? And my response, I just had a conversation with a good friend that I've known for 30 years, and she said, what's going to happen? I said, absolutely nothing will happen. This is how it's so corrupt in Washington. You could have, I mean, we nailed certain people in this book, and I have no confidence that anything will happen to them. I think they'll just continue to get richer, and unless something happens, some type of a catalyst. And I've talked about this before about world history. If you're a student of world history, you see things that are coming to a head. This looks like, I agree with Larry, this looks like it's headed for an ugly crossroads.
Well, and from the standpoint of the left, guys, is that by some grace of God, the Democrats retain control of the House of Representatives tomorrow, as well as the Senate. You can expect all heck to break loose from the left. And Robert Mueller will be out there with his knives, and the rest of them will be supporting them. Richard Blumenthal, Dianne Feinstein, Adam Schiff, the rest of them. They're going to go to alternative methods to take this country down. And they know how to do it. And look at Obama. He's out there again right now. Okay. And the problem I have with Obama is that he whips up this racial division and this hatred. Okay. And we were doing pretty well before him. Okay. Now we've got Andrew Gillum in Florida, and we've got another one in Georgia. And I have many African American conservative friends, really good people, that are against this, whether it's Larry Elder or Alan Keyes or Armstrong Williams or whatever, Demetric Penny in Dallas. And this is just one example, the use of the race card. And let me expound on that a little bit more. Because even Fox News, to some extent, is running away from the president right now. He had an ad on television about the invasion from Central America, and Fox pulled it on the basis that someone said it was racist. Fox is being very reflexive. They're banning conservatives from the network. I've been blackballed by Fox for a long time because I said that Obama has Muslim sympathies. He is half Muslim. What's the story? And that's why I admire what Michael's doing and what you're doing, because we tell the truth, crowdsource the truth. I don't need Fox. I'm on Newsmax. I'm on other places. But they are running away as well. They've run away from Sheriff Arpaio. They run away from Judge Roy Moore. They ran away from the Bundys. Ryan Bundy hasn't been on Fox. Why isn't he on Fox? You got everybody else there. You got Adam Laxalt. You got Sislyak there. You got everybody running for governor in Nevada, but not Ryan Bundy. So this is the world we live in today. And it's frustrating, but we keep punching. We're going to keep fighting. We will win. But we need the masses to rise up with us peacefully and legally. And we have to be prepared to defend ourselves with our Second Amendment rights and otherwise, because the left is coming for us. We won't start it, but we have to defend ourselves.
Absolutely. That's sad news that Fox won't put Ryan Bundy on there. I'm really hopeful that he'll win this gubernatorial election. Ryan is a good and honest man. I was so impressed by the way that he defended his freedom and represented himself in the courtroom there. It was really amazing. And also, I want to mention that the book Michael is speaking of course, is Paine, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas. It's available now on Amazon.com. You can get it on Kindle or paperback. Amazing 15 customer reviews, 5 stars, #1 new release in intelligence and espionage. All reviews are 5 stars. That's almost like a Hillary Clinton book, Michael.
Well, I don't even have that many family members that like me, so it's real. But it's doing well. Just a quick continuation of what Larry was saying. Yeah, Fox something happened over there. I don't know when it happened, but it's not the network it was 2 years ago for sure. And I think a lot of people are standing up and noticing, and maybe some of those folks will have to turn off Fox and start turning on alternative media, because there's certainly we put Fox in a category as mainstream media right now. Absolutely. And I don't think there's any indication that they're going to turn around. And I don't think 1 or 2 hosts at night make up for the other 22 hours of programming that are mainstream media.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's... Sorry, Larry, go ahead.
Fox Sons right now, and they're both very liberal. They're to the left. The only reason Fox has maintained a conservative audience is because we built up a market. I wasn't a big fan of Roger Ailes, but he was a conservative. me, Ann Coulter, Matt Drudge, others in the 90s, we helped build that market with what we were doing. And you did it too, Michael, and other people have done it. But the only reason that they maintain some loyalty to the conservative movement is because it's a cash cow for them. They have a huge following and a huge now reach. They're very wealthy. They can do things that other networks can't do, conservative media. And I would like to see competition. I'm an antitrust lawyer in part. And I'd like to see Newsmax go forward. I'd like to see Crowdsource the Truth, True Pundit, others, because we cannot depend on them to really tell the full truth. It just goes so far.
Absolutely.
And, that's why they love the documents. That's the documents. Okay, so what? Documents. I want these documents to get rid of Mueller. I don't want them just to go on Fox News.
Right. You've hit it on the head, Larry. I mean, they saw a market and they went after it. It's a business, and obviously everybody needs money. I'm not disparaging them for wanting to earn money. The problem is when we have these multi-million and multi-billion-dollar corporations controlling news networks, paying anchors millions of dollars, that's a mechanism of control. Those ads are supported by other billion-dollar corporations, and the people giving us the news on there are easily controlled because they don't want to lose their multi-million-dollar salaries. So what we're trying to do here on Crowdsource the Truth and with the various programs that we're doing only on Patreon is to create an alternative business model to that. We're not relying on million-dollar sponsors. We're relying on multiple micro sponsorships. So the people out there in the audience sponsor patreon.com/freedomwatch or patreon.com/truepundit, or of course patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And when each individual who's watching sponsors the program for, let's say, $2 a month, it's a low financial impact on the individual, but it makes sure that we're not having our information unduly swayed by the financial influence of these huge supporters. And as Michael pointed out in these FOIA documents, there does seem to be some preferential treatment of some reporters over others, and we really get a lot of insight into this control mechanism and the interactions between the mainstream media and the government.
Actually, we're having a very good discussion about the media because we all know a lot about it. And for instance, in the national security area, okay, where these reporters are so dependent on sources at the CIA, NSA, FBI, they tend to not delve too deeply. They tend not to push too much. I've represented whistleblowers that were exposing much more than Snowden even exposed, but they didn't want to report it because they will lose their sources in those agencies. And Fox has one of them, and she's very articulate, Catherine Herridge, but she is a tool of the establishment. I don't mean that negatively, but that's what she is. And most of these reporters do depend on their sources. We don't care. Okay, we have to do what we have to do because we believe in results.
Right. Yeah, it's as we go through, I'm scrolling through quite a few of these email messages, and as Michael pointed out, there are phone numbers right out in the open. Obviously, somebody went over this very carefully, chose what to redact, what not to redact. I think there were probably quite a lot of detailed decisions made about what level of image compression to use based on the incredibly poor results that I got from trying to do optical character recognition. I would imagine that someone has developed a formula for saving these documents in such a way that they're obviously acceptable for reading, but below a threshold for converting to text with OCR to prevent any kind of really truly efficient sorting or any of the computer operations that you could do by putting these emails into a database of some kind, and really have stymied the efforts of you and your team, Larry. So it's just another thing they're doing to delay.
In a small way, as we said last week, Jason, when we were doing a little interview walking down the street, which was, by the way, a really great interview. You're a great interviewer. I've always said that you're better than Barbara Walters, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
When they first were supposed to send these documents to me, they said, oh, we can't email them. They're too big. It's not going through. We'll just send it to you by UPS. You'll get it in a week. And I said, no, I don't get it tonight. And I go into court to seek to have you held in civil contempt for not obeying a court order. And every step of the way, you have to fight. For every inch, you have to fight. And the government works for us, and that's just unbelievable that they think that they're above the law, that they're superior to the American people, that they can't be held accountable. And you know what? Up to now, they have been proven to be correct, because Democrats and Republicans, they protect each other.
Right. And you know, with regard to the file size, as far as emailing stuff, Larry, it's very ironic, and it goes right to the point of what I'm getting at. Text files, I mean, you could have pages and pages and pages of text files, hundreds, even thousands of pages on a single, remember those old floppy disks, those tiny little things with very low storage capacity. But the problem is they're making each one of these emails into an image, which requires much more computer space to store. It's far less efficient to transmit around. And so, I mean, they're the ones making it too big to send. So it's obvious obstruction.
And they know that we're relatively small. That's why we would like to get bigger. That's why we can use the tax-deductible contributions. If I can make a pitch, we need more lawyers, we need more paralegals, we need more investigators. Because, and they know that we can't match them. The Justice Department has 7,000 plus lawyers, tens of thousands of other employees. And that's just the Justice Department. And, you know, they're coming to me every day for extensions of time on things. What do they need extensions of time for when you have 7,000 lawyers? Exactly. But the judges look to them. Judges, are Justice Department alumni. They have a government mentality. That's how they got to be judges. They got there by scratching the backs of the establishment, and now they've got to pay the establishment back.
Yeah, so it's very important that people watching go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate. Your tax-deductible contribution is going to help Larry add more lawyers to his team and slog through some of this research. You know, I forgot to mention, Larry also has a book available for purchase. You can get it on Amazon.com. It's called Whores, How and Why I Came to Fight the Establishment. But you've got a new book out as well, don't you, Larry, that's only available on freedomwatchusa.org?
Yes. With a contribution of $250, I'll send it to you for free. It's called Essays of a Mad Man. It's all of the writings that I've done over the years since I started Judicial Watch, running for the U.S. Senate in Florida, at Freedom Watch. It chronicles really what has happened in the country. And if you read this thing, you know, it's like an encyclopedia of corruption. I could perhaps change the name. And it tells you where we are today. And I'm very happy that we have President Trump as a president. He says it like it is. He can be a little coarse sometimes, but you know what? I understand why he is, because in his heart he's trying to do the right thing, and he's frustrated as well. And we need to support him. And a lot of the last volume, Volume 4, is about the Trump presidency.
And you know, Larry, I'm seeing some amazing through lines that are coming to the surface now that Robert Mueller is the special counsel. I think a lot of people watching the news really weren't very aware of Robert Mueller. One thing President Trump has done is to really engage the American public in a way that a lot of presidents haven't in the past. Perhaps his larger-than-life personality, his presence on reality television, whatever that might be. But of course, you were very involved in pursuing the Clintons way back in the day, and someone who's come back into the news just recently, posthumously, Peter W. Smith. He was there when the revelations about Troopergate came out. Peter W. Smith even created a fund for whistleblower troopers who wanted to come forward and speak about Bill Clinton utilizing the Arkansas State Troopers as a limousine service to drive him around from rape to rape. And we've now had two different women who have been, one who's been raped by Bill Clinton and one who was sexually assaulted. Leslie Milwee independently verified in her own testimony that she saw Bill Clinton being driven around by the state troopers. Now, Robert Mueller's investigation and these communications between Shane Harris and Peter Carr, I think, show a picture of Shane Harris trying to manipulate the story, trying to use Peter Smith as an important figure in this narrative and trying to connect him to General Flynn. What can we say, Michael, what can we say about the manipulation of this narrative and the role that the press is playing and all this stuff?
Guys, I don't believe anything these guys write. It's so corrupt. I've been around for a long time. A lot of the things don't add up. A lot of the way the stories come together, they come together too seamlessly. All the puzzle pieces fit together too nicely. Everything is tied up in a nice bow when they go to print. And real journalism is messy. It's ugly. There's holes in stories. Naturally, not every question can be answered. Not when you deal with real sources who are not on the take or who are not part of some operation, they don't want to talk to you on both sides because they're afraid what might happen to their job. And when I see people out in the open commenting on things and without any hesitation, it tells me that they're part of an operation. So real journalism can be messy and not as clean as a lot of the things I'm seeing in the media especially when it comes to the Wall Street Journal, which I think has gotten a free pass on a lot of things. The story you're talking about, the reporter has a very sketchy history, and I'd like to see his phone records, and back in the old days, we would pull his records. Somebody in the media would come to us and we'd pull his records for the people and for the other media organization or for somebody who wanted to get leverage on them. And so I know the game very well, and I don't think a lot of these stories add up because they're just too damn clean. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And actually, Michael, you've just raised a point that I want to mention to Larry. Larry, so we're talking about Shane Harris, and he's communicating with Peter Carr. At noon on August, I think it was 25th, he talks to Peter Carr for the first time. He introduces himself. He says he's calling from the Wall Street Journal, or writing from the Wall Street Journal. He invites Carr over to their Washington, D.C. bureau to meet with about 10 of their reporters and editors on their Russia team, as Harris calls it. Now, could you go to Judge Sullivan and subpoena Shane Harris's phone records as a result of his involvement in this interaction with the special counsel's office?
It is possible, okay? If I can show that the Justice Department has lied and we could use those phone records to track down documents, that's possible. That's what I did with Judge Royce Lamberth in the 1990s in the Chinagate scandal, is that was a case about trade missions that Ron Brown was orchestrating under the direction of Hillary Clinton to find other places. They were being sold. Go on a trade mission and give $100,000 to the Democratic National Committee or the Clinton Gore campaign. It's illegal. Okay, you can't do that. And people were buying that government assistance. And in the context of that, I sought documents inside of Ron Brown's office, and they were nowhere to be found. And then I found whistleblowers who said that they existed. And Judge Lamberth allowed me discovery. And to be able to track down the documents, I actually was able to subpoena individuals in the White House and in the Commerce Department outside of a FOIA case, and way beyond that. So if we can show this, and if Judge Sullivan gives us that kind of latitude, it can be done. But in modern history, the only one who's ever done that is Judge Lamberth, and that's why he is one of my favorite. He is my favorite judge. Royce C. Lamberth, you can check him out on Wikipedia.
Absolutely. And of course, Emmett Sullivan is a close second, I know. I observed your interactions with him there in the courtroom and was very impressed by how you guys...
He was appointed by Clinton. He is a Democrat, but right. He's an honest man. And I'll tell you something, in that courthouse, that's extremely rare.
Right.
Very rare.
It's like hen's teeth, Larry, as they say.
And lawyers aren't supposed to say these things, but I had to say it because I've lived it. And that's why I started Judicial Watch in 1994 and why I now have Freedom Watch. And that's what I love about the president. He'll call a spade a spade. He'll talk about a corrupt judge or, the fact that someone is influenced by his background, which does happen. It happens all the time. We can't have this Pollyanna concept of what our legal system's about. Ken Starr had that Pollyanna concept, and they ate him for lunch.
Right.
Clinton people ate him for lunch. Okay, He's never been the same. Now he's written a book. He's trying to get rehabilitated, but the poor guy was destroyed the Clinton lawyers and everybody else. He did not understand how the system worked.
Yeah. Now, Larry, I don't know if you've familiarized yourself with Michael's book, Paine, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas, but one of the primary allegations of the book is that the administrations of both President George W. Bush and Barack Obama were aware that Iran was hiding Osama bin Laden, and when the FBI set up a tip line, they basically used the incoming tips to target whistleblowers and the people that had brought those bits of information to their attention. And Michael, you of course have come under fire, personal attacks, disinformation attacks against you, disinformation attacks against True Pundit. BuzzFeed even put out a story claiming that your reporting that China had hacked Hillary Clinton's server was fake news, when only the next day the Inspector General said that himself. What can you say about all of this, Michael? There's been a lot of reporting coming out lately that seems directly targeted at you and this book.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. I like it when people try to challenge that, because we did a lot of work on this and talked to a lot of people who have firsthand knowledge. These are firsthand sources. These are not hearsay people who are like, well, I heard this guy told me this, and I heard from this guy. These are people who were involved up to their neck in trying to run down these leads and were threatened with arrest and things like that. So I see myself more as a messenger on this than some kind of somebody standing on a mountaintop with a megaphone. I'm not claiming anything that hasn't been told to me by people that are very credible, including people who served in government, in Congress, and law enforcement. And when people come out and attack you, I kind of like it, because it's like, okay, now I know that I'm onto something. You know, you don't want to pick a fight and have everybody run away. I like to pick a fight and people show up to the fight, and let's see under that pressure if the book stands up. And I think it's stood up. It's done very well, and it just shows that there's more to the story that I don't have access to. But when it comes to documents and things, a lot of this stuff is national security, but it goes back to what Larry touched on earlier. This is something that happened under Bush and was continued under Obama. And it shows you that there's no political parties when these people, when their back is up against the wall in Washington. There's one political party. It's save your own butt and stay in power and do what you need to do. Lie, cheat, steal, put people's lives in danger, or even, worse, to stay in power and to keep these things secret. The cover-up's always worse than the crime. I know that's been repeated, but it's so true. So I don't have a problem if people attack me, because part of me listens to it. But, as time goes on, I'm becoming tone deaf on critics, because I just don't have time to babysit people who either have agendas or don't have the intellectual capacity to understand what's being explained to them in a very straightforward way. Maybe that sounds cocky, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
When I first started Judicial Watch in 1994, reporters were sent to my office claiming to be enamored of what I was doing. Okay, one of them, Paul Bluestein, Tony Losey, the Washington Post, they wrote a hit piece on me, which then all other reporters copied. And I had a thin skin then. I took it to heart. I hadn't done this before. I hadn't been known. I hadn't been out there. And I remember Richard Viguerie, who's he's like Roger Ailes. He helped get Reagan elected. He's the dean of direct mail. I was using him at the time in the early days of Judicial Watch. He would say to me, Larry, don't worry about it, because you judge yourself by your enemies. Is that if you're insignificant, you're not going to be attacked. So it's actually a feather in your cap that they're coming after you.
Absolutely.
And I've kind of put that away, given my spirituality as well. There was a couple big guys out there that were attacked, Jesus and Moses. They were attacked and called heretics. Yeah. And obviously they accomplished a lot, to put it mildly. So I'm not them. But I'm telling you is that if you're effective, like Michael is with this book, and I look forward to reading it, they're going to come after you. If it means nothing, they're going to just ignore it.
Absolutely. And now, Michael, you've said that well, you said this is an op. I presumed you meant the Mueller investigation, correct?
I think it's bigger than that. I think Larry has tripped onto something maybe he intended to, or he had some kind of hunch that. I think the media, I think this whole thing is, when I'll read through these emails, some of these emails are not the way you would contact a guy like Carr. They're way too chummy. They're way too cavalier, almost like they're old fraternity brothers, and that there's a big history between some of these people. And it makes me wonder, I'm looking at it a little deeper, and I don't want to get too crazy down the rabbit hole, but this whole Mueller thing, there's really not much to it. It seems like it's more smoke than fire. So by keeping it alive and feeding the media whatever this guy Carr and whoever else on the special counsel who's leaking, I mean, anyone who makes the claim there's been no leaks is completely outer limits, because there's been a ton of leaks, and none of them seem to benefit Trump. They all seem to go against Trump. So by keeping this whole thing alive and claiming that there's Russian collusion, it gives, this is like another layer, another level. It gives these social media folks reason to call people Russian bots, Russian trolls, and eliminate their voices from social media, delete their accounts. So I see this as like a major, large-scale, multifaceted operation to silence conservatives, to keep Trump and the word scandal or investigation or grand jury in the news, even though there's not much there. So, yeah, so I see it as a big operation. I think it's very well orchestrated, very well put together by seasoned professionals. And I really have to commend them, because I think it's really kind of a thing of beauty. You can tell that people involved in orchestrating this have a lot of experience, and that they're evil people. Because I used to think along these same lines. So I can see myself being involved in an operation like this too. So, or helping craft it. That's why I think it's an operation. And I think Larry has just scratched the surface with this, and it's probably why they're withholding the majority of communications, because I think what you've seen is the rated G stuff. I think the rated R stuff is going to be pretty bad.
Right.
Well, yeah. I hope someone will come forward, guys, who has been harmed by these leaks. I would welcome representing them, because if we can bring a lawsuit, I think that could be very, very effective. And just in the last week, talk about leaks, the rumors, leaks, whatever you want to call them, that Trump has been subpoenaed by the special counsel. Where did that come from? Okay, it didn't come from Trump's lawyers. Okay, it came from the special counsel. I don't believe he's been subpoenaed. I believe that they're seeking a declaratory ruling from a judge in the D.C. federal courts right now to see if he can be subpoenaed. But obviously this was meant to keep this whole thing alive during this election period to influence the vote tomorrow.
Right.
So we haven't gone away. We'll be back, like Star Wars, like...
That's the Terminator. Schwarzenegger.
Right, Darth Vader, whatever.
You might be right. Star Wars just won't go away. You might be right.
That's true. That's true.
Well, again, there's a joke: is that what does true love and herpes have in common? True love doesn't last forever, right? And Robert Mueller appears to want to last forever, so perhaps it's the same thing.
Exactly. Now, we're getting close to the end of our hour here, so what I'm going to do is we've made the FOIA documents available to our most dedicated researchers and the people that are supporting us on patreon.com, because without them we couldn't make this sort of thing happen. People can go to patreon.com/freedomwatch, patreon.com/truepundit, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Our $5 a month sponsors on Crowdsource the Truth have access to the Discord roles where I've released these documents already. That's the group that's created this little research group that created the Trello board that's been so helpful in assisting the lawyers and the research assistants at freedomwatchusa.org. And I'll be releasing that to Twitter later on tonight so that we can get a a large group of people looking at it, but I hope that more people will get onto the Discord roles there on Crowdsource the Truth and participate with Margot and the dissenter and the other people that are putting that Trello board together. And with that, I want to thank my guests tonight, of course, Larry Klayman of freedomwatchusa.org and Michael Moore of True Pundit. You guys are doing excellent work, and I can't thank you enough for participating with me here tonight. Is there anything you guys want to say in closing?
Well, I think we'd rather have a Trello board than a Ouija board right now, frankly. I mean,
Exactly.
we need to know the truth. We don't need to divine the truth. And I thank Michael for what he's been doing. Very important to have a True Pundit. Very important to have Crowdsource the Truth. We are not the alternative media. We are the real media.
That's right.
Thank you, Larry,
You're welcome.
for saying this. Thank you.
Yeah. So people can go to truepundit.com, get their news over there. Don't forget to purchase Paine, How We Dismantled the FBI in Our Pajamas. It's the #1 new release in intelligence and espionage. 15 5-star reviews. Everybody loves that book. If you want to learn more about the inside operation of Washington, D.C. and the Justice Department, you can purchase Whores, How I Came to Fight the Establishment, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment, written by Larry. And I can tell you, Larry is a really humorous guy. I always enjoy our conversations. The truth is, I feel the same way about Michael. You guys both have tremendously humorous voices in the way you convey your information. Thank you both for everything that you're doing. This has been a really important dump tonight, and we couldn't do it without the crooked Robert Mueller, who's been leaking and doing all the things that he does. I will speak to you both very soon, and I am sure we will have some more information out of these documents. Thank you both. Have a great night, and thanks to everyone for watching. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.